so let's take a look at our mini nitrous install kit. Basically, it's, exactly what it looks like. We've got a dispenser, we've got some 16-gram nitrous bottles, some hose, and fitting to plug into your air intake. If you need the instructions, you probably shouldn't be doing this, and this is a good time for me to tell everybody that I am, in fact, a professional, and this is the only modification with a 99% death rate for engines. So, nobody should do this, whether or not you know how, but if you don't know how, definitely don't mess with this stuff. That being said, let's take a look at what we got here. So I'm not actually going to read the instructions. Again, if you need them, you probably shouldn't be doing this, but this is basically just going to be two parts, right? We got to hook the hose up to the air intake and mount the dispenser. That part is already done. I'm going to kind of do this on like sleeper status here. So, that'll be actually under the seat, and, you'll just be able to reach down under here with your offhand and activate the nitrous. So that should be pretty fun. And it's also going to prevent me from having to run the hose, all the way from the handlebar down there under the freaking floorboard back into, I just got to go from right there and then run a hose down there, and I'll be able to hide it much better. And my thought process is too, the shorter the hose is, the better the hit of nitrous is going to be, and the less I'm going to have to deal with as far as like kinking or flow problems or leaks or whatever. All right, so more or less what they want you to do is plug your jet, that's the little silver guy, into this end, and then run the hose to the little blue fitting, which they want you to drill into your intake manifold, air box, something like that. I'm just going to cheat the system. I have an air filter that's designed to accept a fitting, and I'm just going to put that on the end of my carburetor and spray it directly in. We don't need to get super fancy here, guys. So that's how I'm going to do mine. I think that's a good shortcut. Tip, as we put this thing together, I see they include an extra O-ring. I'm going to go ahead and use some air gun oil. You can use any type of pellet gun, air gun, O-ring oil. This is made for CO2 air guns, which is a similar kind of canister, right? So that's what I'm going to use. I'll put a little drop on the O-ring in there. And probably whenever I actually use these canisters, I will put a drop of this oil on the very tip of the nozzle. That should prevent any leaks. This should work for quite some time as long as you take care of the seat. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this panel off of the Ruckus so you guys can see, where most of the action is going to happen here. There's going to be 4 10mm screws. And if you have like a larger moped or like a Vespa, I don't know, some type of a traditional scooter with a full body, this will probably be buried underneath like the seat or whatever covered area is back here. But all of them will have the engine in the rear. All of them should have some type of panel like this. We can remove and access all that. If not, just getting it, right from the bottom. So give just a minute. We'll take this off. All right, guys, so I've got this mostly opened up for your benefit at this point, but what we're going to do is we're going to remove the air filter. Now, if you have your stock carburetor, don't freak out, okay? This fitting will bolt up to the end of your stock carburetor. You will need to delete your air box, which normally goes here. That being said, you should have already rejetted your carburetor if you're going to do nitrous. If you don't know how to rejet your carburetor, you shouldn't be installing nitrous, so go back and maybe check out some videos for that. But you'll see we've just taken this off here, and now what we're going to want to do is just attach our nitrous intake. So let me show that to you guys here. All right, here's our nitrous intake. So this will bolt right onto the end of our carburetor. Let me fish that through here. I may need to sort of relocate some of these hoses. Probably not, we'll see. I can just snake it in around the back here. Yeah, and then we'll just tighten that sucker down and hook the other end up to the sprayer. All right, guys, and there you have it. Our nitrous air intake is installed. This is the stock Honda carburetor. All right, so you can see that the same type of air intake will fit 38, 35 millimeters, somewhere in there will get you done. And those are like $9 on Amazon. Now, you will, like I said, have to take the bottom off and rejet your carburetor. All right, you got to make sure you're running more fuel. And the jets for these Honda carbs are about $20. They're kind of more on the expensive side. So I just went ahead and built my own, upgraded, went with a larger volume at the same time. Completely up to you, but that's what you need to do to install the nitrous kit. Okay, we've got everything routed. We've got our nitrous kit hooked up. I'm going to do like a whole fancy, you know, kind of a hidden sleeper kind of thing underneath the seat here. But technically all you got to do at this point is just shove that hose on there and start spraying nitrous. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll show you guys the rest of what I do, but at this point, the rest of the install is up to you. Here is our completed nitrous kit install, and I think one of the coolest things about doing it this way is that you can show it off, you can display it. It also makes it good for demonstration and teaching, right? So let me show what we got going on here. This is going to be our main hose that goes all the way into the air intake, and you'll see that it is fed by the dispenser here, okay? These are backup bottles. These are the size of the bottles that it has in there. They're little 16-gram bottles. One goes in here. This is the go button, and it flows through here into the air intake. Now this other line is actually a purge line, and this will get all of our water and extra air out of there. And it won't allow any backflow because I've got this little check flow filter on there. So pretty neat, nice and tidy, and it works, right?